artificial intelligence basically will transform every industry at every level. Everything's up for grabs.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Corey, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here. I've read all your books. I've done all the things, and like I honestly just want to give some appreciation to you, because there are some processes and places that I wouldn't have been in with business without the education that you put out there, especially in Oversubscribed. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and all the stuff that you're doing, super motivational.
That Oversubscribed book, it gets around.
It gets around, yeah.
It does the rounds. It's amazing the number of people who pass it on to their team, and then they kind of like do campaigns with it. It's really cool, really good. Great to hear.
Yeah, which is like super awesome. And I was just wondering, in regards to like content these days, one of the things that you mentioned in the book is that people need to have 11 hours of watchable content before anyone starts to like buy their stuff. And I have a bunch of people that come into my community, and they're coaches, they're PTs, they're doing something online, marketing services, and they get a little bit like, you know, scared to post or put themselves out there for the sheer amount of content to make something bingeable for the 11 hours. What's like your thoughts on that? And do you think it's increased? Because you wrote book like Oversubscribers a few years ago. So I'm like,
well, it's a few different pieces of research that converge. And there's a piece of research from Google that says it's 11 touch points. And it's basically that people, like a meaningful, memorable touch point times 11, or in the research, it was 10.7. So let's call it 11. And then there's another one that talks about 4 locations, that people need to see you in 4 locations. Now, these are all pieces of research that are relating to the concept of how people bond and form trusted bonds. And I learned a lot about this when I first came to London. As an Aussie, I will say that Australians tend to form bonds and friendships very fast relative to the rest of the world. When I first came to London, I realized that it was very slow. You had to meet people and have a first meeting where you just catch up and have a coffee. And then you organize a second meeting where you might discuss, hey, let's do something. And then you have a third meeting where you sort of say, hey, what if we did this? What if we tried this? And this could take weeks, months, but it's normally on the second or third or fourth coffee that you end up doing business with someone here in London. And the more you go to the more traditional circles, the slower it moves. And you know, famously, Japanese business people often like to do a round of golf before they discuss business and all this sort of stuff. So globally, they found 7 hours, 11 interactions, or 4 locations was a significant moment in time where people started to say, you know what, you're not just an acquaintance, you're someone who is a little bit more known and trusted. Now, here's the weird thing. The weird thing is that people don't know the difference between digital interactions and physical interactions. So if I hear the very sad news that David Bowie has passed away, then I'm going to feel sad, even though I never met David Bowie, because I've had these digital interactions with David Bowie. And the brain just does this thing where, like, if you read somebody's book, you know, you said to me at the beginning of this call, hey, I'm really excited to connect with you because I've read your books and it feels like we already know each other. So, you know, you read someone's book and it builds this relationship. So there's something that's going on, even when the interaction's done in a digital and scalable way.
Yeah, which is like so cool. And one of the things that you mention and talk about, which was like highlighted in the book as well, is just some of the struggles and problems like founders have whilst trying to do everything. So, because I get confused, I'm like, do I write a book? Do I focus on creating a lot of content? Do I focus on my podcast? Do I manage my team? Do I run the ads? Do I create this thing and do that? And there's like all these things that come out of my mind. And it's so overwhelming. And then being able to like let go and actually like focus on the one thing is extremely important. And I think like a lot of people like these days, it's just like, it's not even the burnout, it's just the mental fatigue of responsibility of so many tasks. I like to hear like your thoughts on that, and sort of like your thoughts on that, and including with like the modern day, what are some of that you have seen, especially recently, some of the best avenues to go down if you're looking at, becoming a key person of influence or having a successful business?
Yeah, so let's go piece by piece. But one of the things that happens is that if you're running a computer and there's a massive program running in the background, everything runs slowly, everything starts to crash. So there's this big program that people run in the background called, am I doing the right thing? Right? Like, am I actually doing the right things right now? And that's a big program to run. That's not a small program. That is like Google Maps on steroid. If you're running that program, am I doing the right thing? Then that's going to take up a lot of creative energy. So entrepreneurship is a lot like building Lego. And here's what I mean by that. Because I've got 3 little kids and we buy lots of Legos, right? Every time I go on a plane, I've got to come back with buckets of Legos. So the way it works is you bring home a Lego monster truck, and on the front cover, it tells you this is what it's meant to look like. This is exactly what it looks like when it's finished. And then you open the box and there's all these bags and you just tip the bags on the floor. There is no possible way that you are going to be able to randomly guess which pieces go together in order to make the Lego truck. You would create a monstrosity, not a monster truck. So what they do is they insert into the box step-by-step guide, and they say, first do this, then this, then this, then this. And if you don't even have to think, if you just simply go piece by piece by piece, it's kind of weird. Before you even realize what you've done, you've almost created the thing. And it's like there's this moment in every Lego building experience where you almost 3/4 done and you go, wow, this is actually shaping up really good. And all I did was follow the instructions. So it's the same with entrepreneurship. When you've built and sold a couple of companies, so I've built and sold a few companies. When you go through that whole process of building a business, going through due diligence, selling to an acquirer, right, going through and talking to them about all the things that are actually important to them and all of that sort of stuff, you actually realize that there was only a certain small number of things that actually mattered in the whole entrepreneurial journey. You can go years without doing anything that matters in terms of building a valuable business. You can just go and be busy very easily and not add any value to the business, and a year or 2 years or 3 years go by. In fact, I know of businesses that were valued at 9 million in 1 year, and then 3 years later they were still valued at 9 million. So they'd done nothing to add any value in that entire period of time. So it's very easy to do that as an entrepreneur. So the way to get around that is you must follow some sort of a diligent process where it's like step by step by step by step, do this, then this, then this, then this. And by the time you've done all of those steps, you built something that's worth tens of millions. So my most recent startup is valued at around 40 million pounds. So in Aussie dollars, I don't know, $75 million, and it's less than 3 years old. So it's possible to do that very deliberately, just boom, 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 and you follow a process. You don't have to think; you just go through a process and do it.
Is that process called 24 assets?
It ends up as 20. Yeah, the 24 assets is the end. But here, let me give you a few little walkthroughs. The first 4 things is called chaos. Chaos stands for concept, audience, offer, sales. So you need to come up with a really good concept that has the potential to scale, a concept that has potential to be valuable, where smart people have said, I love that concept and that concept's right for you. It's a good founder fit as well. You've figured out that there's a market, that they're willing to pay money. There's a whole bunch of stuff. It can be quirky, it can be different. Like Airbnb wasn't an obvious great concept, but absolutely there were people willing to pay, and no one was doing that solution. So they identified this gap in the market. So you got to find a concept that has the potential to become valuable. Then you've got to test to see if you can build an audience for that. So you can launch a waiting list, or you can launch a discussion group, or you can launch an online scorecard or assessment. You can run an event. So all of those are called audience building moves. The third thing you want to do is build an offer, and you want to test 3 or 4 offers against each other. So when you're building an offer, you want to actually say, do we want to do $10,000 up front? Do we want to do 3 payments of $4,000? Do we want to do a monthly subscription? Do we want to do, combination of both, $5,000, then $200 a month? So you want to play around with different offers and different things that are included. Do we include the widgets? Do we include the software? Do we include the data? Like, what do we do for people? So you got to explore to what end you want to do done for you, done with you, or do it yourself. So you kind of play around with those concepts. And then the final piece to get off the ground is just making sales in a predictable way. So chaos is concept, audience, offer, sales. Fourth one is sales, which is, can we sit down with people and say the exact same sort of script and they respond the same way and they buy the same way, and then we get into a predictable rhythm of closing sales. And that's the first thing that gets you like the first, gold medal for the entry level of business, those four things.
Yeah, because then it's just scaling it up after that, which is why I can see or having like a brochure for your business is so powerful, of just like having that done first, because it's like it's all here, you know what I mean? Like
in this modern world, no, like people hear me talk about brochures and they're like, what are you talking about? Like like there are certain people of a certain age who are like, what is a brochure? Like, what are you even talking about? Is that like a printed out landing page? So it is a printed out landing page, right? That's exactly what it is. But when I launch a tech product, one of the things we do is we launch a brochure. We just start with a brochure, and I sit down and it has images of screens and laptops and phones, and it tells a little story. And I sit down with people and I say, this is what we're trying to do. Here's our vision for this business, and here's what the product will do, and here's the problem that it solves, and here's the types of clients that it solves this for, and this is what experts have said about that problem and this solution. And I go through and I show people these, 6-page brochure or whatever it is, and then I say, are you interested in joining the waiting list and putting down a small deposit? And if they go, ooh, maybe get back to me later, I go, what would stop you? Or what if I could change this in some way so that you felt massively compelled to join a waiting list and put down a small deposit, what would have to change? And that process of presenting people with a brochure, it really is such an important thing, because what's in my head might be super clear, but I don't know if that's clear in your head, right? So there's this little, like, if I said to you, I'm going to think of a song and I'm going to just kind of like clap out, the beat, it's super clear in my head what I'm doing, but you're sitting there going, I got no idea what he's talking about. Yeah. What song is he thinking about? And it's the same with the product. When I'm talking about a product, if I'm just talking about it, what I've got in my head is probably not what's in someone else's head. So a brochure is a great way to be much more aligned.
Have you got any stories of when you have gone through one of these and it's just failed miserably?
Yeah, and actually I want that to happen. I want it to fail miserably. Like one of the best, here's the first thing first. There's two types of successful outcomes, right? So when you plot successful outcomes on a graph, successful outcomes either form something called a bell curve or something called a power law. So on a bell curve, most results cluster around a small outcome and a few outliers spread around the edge. On a power law, most things are distributed, but one takes all the prize, right? So think of it as winner take all, or most people do okay. So there's two outcomes, winner take all or most people do okay. So let's imagine we're talking about the difference between a doctor versus an entrepreneur. If I go to medical school and I become a doctor, my success is going to be on a bell curve. Most doctors do okay. Some doctors earn a little bit more than other doctors for whatever reason. Some doctors earn a little bit less, but most doctors do okay, right? Take anywhere in the world, most doctors are upper middle class kind of people. And there's very few people who are like, they've lost their house because they became a doctor. And there's very few people who became billionaires because they were a doctor. So it's a very narrow set of outcomes. Whereas when we look at the entrepreneur community, we've got millions of examples of people who lose their house. We've got some examples of people who are now richer than countries, right? So you have a very wide set of outcomes, right? This is called a power law, winner take all, and plenty of people lose. If you talk about athletes, an athlete going to the Olympics, one person gets the gold medal couple of people get silver and bronze, and then everyone else loses money in order to be at the Olympics that year. So it's a massive loss. Even though you're in the Olympics and you're the best in your country, you still lose because you didn't win the Olympics. That's a power law. So here's the weird thing. The weird thing with power laws is that failure is actually a really good thing if it's fast and cheap. So when you're dealing with a power law, you want to know really fast and really cheap, right? So let's say, for example, now I'm 5'10". Let's say, for example, that I get it in my head that I want to be a champion basketballer. Now I'm going to dedicate my whole last 20 years to it. Now, all I really need to know, if I talk to an experienced coach, is that somewhat overweight, middle-aged 5'10" men don't typically end up as professional basketballers. It's like, great, I can now cross that out fast and cheap. I like fast, cheap failure would be better than spending 10 or 20 years trying to get to the NBA. That would be a much better result. So in entrepreneurship, what you're trying to achieve is you're not trying to achieve success. It's counterintuitive, but you don't want success. You want fast, cheap failure. You want to figure out, you want to do lots of testing. Like for example, on YouTube, the super YouTubers, they test 30 different thumbnails with $10 worth of ad credit on each thumbnail in Facebook. And they conduct one $300, $400 test that allows them to know which thumbnail is the best. And then that thumbnail makes the video go from 100,000 views to 1.5 million views. So by failing fast and cheap, they figure out which is the best thumbnail that allows them to go big. So the entrepreneur game is a test as many things as you can, as fast and cheap as you can, and double down on the very few things that work. That's the power law. You're playing this mini power law game all the time. So you're looking for, the goal is to get fast, cheap failure.
Yeah, it's insane because you got to be quite relentless for that, right? Like, because
a lot of people are not cut out of it. Most people want to be on a bell curve.
Yeah, because it's
for most people. If you've got a low risk tolerance, you want to be on a bell curve.
Yeah, because like rejection, failing, a lot of people, it's like tough to deal with. Did you have to struggle with that at the start?
No, I'm weird. I've got a very weird. I like power laws. Yeah. I like winner take all. If I feel that I'm strong in that domain, I want to find an example where I can hit a big home run and I want to make millions. I want life-changing amount of money. I want to have a big impact. I want to really knock it out the ballpark if I possibly can.
Nice. I'm
much more interested in that than security.
Oh, so true. And it's like a lot more exciting in that. I feel very much the same.
But that's not necessarily the right answer. I just want to be really clear. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be on a bell curve. Actually, I'd say it's smarter, right? So, there is a very big difference. Some people just want to know, if I get involved in this, do I get $100,000 a year? And it's like, yeah, reliably, if you're a dentist, reliably, you're going to earn 6 figures. And it's like, okay, great, then I'll do it. So a lot of people, I totally get that. And that is the difference with that one is the rule for a bell curve is strive to be the best, right? Strive to be the best. Really just go through and grind and grind and grind, put in the hours, put in the effort, just go through and become the best you possibly can and invest and invest and invest and reinvest and reinvest so that you can make it to the top of the bell curve. But that's not power law. Power law is fail fast and cheap, fail fast and cheap.
What do you think happened in regards for you for, I would say, your mindset when you first sort of figured out, hey, I'm going to believe in myself and I'm going to absolutely crush it here? Because I work with a bunch of people who, for example, are like, because you can see it all on social media now, right? Rock stars everywhere, right? Rock stars everywhere. And then when you start getting into business and you start doing the things, you're like, this is extremely difficult. And I feel like I've been promised this lifestyle and I've just realized that, hey, it may not happen. And then shame, all the things. Oh, man, I was sold a lie. I mean, and then when people really get that, belief in themselves, they'll give it their best crack. They don't care. They'll go out there and just, do what it is. And they might shoot for the stars, but they do land on the moon. What was that like sort of moment for you that was like, I am just going to absolutely beast mode and just attack this power curve, and I believe there's a power play, and believe that I can do it?
I don't think I've ever believed I could do it. I've been curious to see if I could do it. I don't think I don't necessarily. Look, for starters, being born in Australia means you've already won the lottery, right? As soon as you start traveling outside of Australia, you realize that 99% of the world and 99% of all of people who've ever lived would trade places with you in a heartbeat just to be in Australia. The most common question you get when you move overseas is, why would you leave Australia? It's an incredible place, right? Incredible standard of living, great quality of life, healthcare systems, all of those sorts of things. So something in my head has always said, I'm already incredibly lucky just to be here. I'm curious to see what I can do with this opportunity, right? I've been granted an opportunity where I don't have to live in a slum. I don't have to dig a mine. I don't have to, fight in an unjust war. I've been granted a very unique opportunity. My ancestors have gone through all sorts of hell for me to somehow be here. I'm curious to see what I can do with this opportunity. All right. So a bit of a different mindset. I don't think I have a lot of self-belief. I'm not even a big believer in self-belief now. Like I know that a Porsche goes really quickly regardless of what I believe it will do. If I put my foot down on the accelerator, it's designed in such a way that it will just fly. It'll just shoot out off the gate. And that's engineering. That's design principles and engineering principles that it's completely irrelevant how the driver feels about the Porsche. It will just do the thing. So what I'm trying to achieve is design principles that will do the thing regardless of how I feel about it. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to build stuff and design stuff that flies. So the pilot can have a bad day. The pilot can be hungover. The A380 still takes off, right? That's what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for design principles, checklists that we can follow that just simply do most of the work.
Yeah. And that makes so much sense to me, because I remember like one of the stories that you told was like, I needed accountability and I needed to make this happen. I'm going to put $10,000 on a credit card that I do not have the money to do so that I can start up this thing and make it fly. That inspired the hell out of me.
Yeah, there was that, right? And it was also the minimum viable amount of money you had to spend in that time. So in order to capture an audience, you needed to have a quarter-page ad in a newspaper, and they just cost $7,300. That's how much they cost. And if you had any smaller than that, it wouldn't get noticed. I tested it in my old job. I knew that a quarter-page ad is the minimum viable size ad that we needed to get our message across. So it was just like, you're either going to commit to that or you're not. There's no halfway step. You just have to do the thing. So that was 20 years ago, but it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was. I like the dedication. How would you apply that to now? Let's say if someone was in like your position then, but they're in there like today, like 2023, 2024. And they're like, man, I've got this little idea and I want to get it out there.
Good news now is that you can actually test things much cheaper than what I tested things. So you can digitally do stuff that used to cost tens of thousands of dollars to conduct a test. You can conduct a test for $500. So, for example, when I ran an ad in the newspaper, if I knew that I was trying to target men aged 55 to 65 with my offer, I had to take out an ad that would reach everybody. So I knew that straight away, 80% of the spend in the ad was just completely wasted. So I'm having to buy eyeballs that are not interested in order to reach eyeballs that are interested. Now, when I run a Facebook ad, and on top of that, newspaper ads, you're actually paying for the paper, the journalists, the distribution, the kids that ride around and drop the papers on people's front doors. All of that stuff's factored into the price. Now, when I run an ad on Facebook, I am able to collect data and insights by setting up a landing page and having and having a few ads that are just perfectly targeted to different demographics, so I can figure out which ad to which demographic is going to scale, is going to work. So much cheaper. The other thing is it's so much easier to reach angel investors and raise money. There's so much education and training that's freely available. Like when I started my first business, you could buy books, you could get a few cassette tapes on things, but really there wasn't, like, unless you enrolled in university, like it was just a complete walled garden. There was no ability to just go watch a YouTube video on this. Like for example, right now, if I said, oh, I want to raise capital for a new business idea, there's 100 videos that are really good that are probably from Harvard, or they're probably from like some dude who's raised hundreds of millions of dollars. And you can just sit there and watch it for free. There's podcast episodes you listen to for free. Honestly, when I started my business, we didn't have podcasts. We had cassette tapes, and they were like $250 for 4 cassettes. It was crazy. Like, just if you wanted to get 4 or 6 little white cassette tapes sent to you in the mail, you would have to find out where you would get them from. And then you'd have to fill in an order form and fax it to a number. Then they would process your credit card. And then 6 weeks later, you get these cassettes in the mail. I'm not kidding. Oh. It's seriously how it worked. CD sets and cassette tape sets were like a big thing. At that time, I was really lucky that my dad had a few of these lying around the house.
You'd listen to those on repeat, surely. You got like those. It's not like now you got like millions of options, right? You just be like
millions of options right there. No, you could. You would just, like, if someone had like a performance marketing type. Dad had some cassette tapes from this guy called Paul Dunn, who was like doing these like how to do marketing that creates a wow. It was like wow marketing. And it was like all of this kind of like having a call to action and hooking people with a good headline and doing things that surprise and delight. And it was just like people subscribed to that for $50 a month for one cassette tape that would come through. Like it was, and that it was pretty wild. That was podcasts.
Back in the day, podcasts.
Back in the day.
Yeah, it's crazy how it all works. And I was just like thinking in regards to, you know, hey, like you learn all these things and then you go out now and you apply them, and there's a lot of like testing that happens. I'm sure that you've ran some amazing campaigns. I'm sure that you've ran some campaigns that have just been
that flopped.
Yeah, absolutely flopped. What, like like in your experience, what do you think were the things that you did right when you reflect back at it and be like, that is why that campaign worked every single time? And then what are the things that come back and be like, what was the campaign like that went wrong every time? And just adding on to the story a little bit, I want to know, is there any time that you actually lost and you're like, oh, damn, like I'm actually really devastated about this one?
I'm not one to hold on to stuff emotionally. I just kind of move on. I'd have to dig up the graves of my campaigns. But yeah, I know there's definitely disappointing campaigns that we've run. I mean, entrepreneurship's just full of disappointment. It's just so much disappointment. It's like it's even when you're winning, you're losing all the time. So like, you know, even when you are massively smashing it, you've got one thing that's working and 35 things that are failing. You know, so this is just the reality of business. Is just, I'm so numb to things that don't work that, like, when you ask me the question, I'm like, I honestly can't even think of things because they just fade into like a white noise of shit that doesn't work.
That's so good though. I feel like that's so good. Like,
yeah, that's the game.
Yeah. And like, I just find like, cause obviously I work with a lot of people, it's like, that's sort of the skin that comes with it. And the more you do it, the better it gets, and something goes wrong, you're like, well,
that was just today. That was just how it worked. That's how it worked out today. Look, here's what tends to work when it comes to marketing campaigns. What you're trying to do when it comes to marketing is you're trying to create tension between demand and supply. Right? So you're trying to, let's break it down to a silly example. I want you to imagine this. Imagine there's an ice cream truck that drives into a park and it sets up its little stall and it puts up its little like window thing, and it just sits there and waits for people to come up one at a time and they sell the ice creams, across the course of 6 hours from lunchtime to 6 p.m. And people are kind of like coming up when they want to, and some people are like, oh, can I get a discount if I buy 5? Can I buy 4 and get 1 for free and stuff? And of course you're like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Why not? So there's no real tension between demand and supply. There's nothing that makes you feel that you're like in a you don't know how many people are going to buy, and you basically, and people who are buying don't know how much you're going to sell out. So imagine that scenario 1 is you just turn up and open the door. Imagine the exact same park on the exact same day. You drive the ice cream truck in, but instead of opening, you walk around the park and you say, hey, look, we're about to open the ice cream truck in about 15 minutes. We only have a limited amount of ice cream. It's quite a warm day. We normally sell out pretty quickly. If you're interested, you might want to jump up and join the queue. No pressure, but if you want to join the line, we're going to be opening in 15 minutes and we'll probably sell out pretty quick. It's up to you. So imagine you just walk around and just share that message that there's, potentially demand and supply tension. And then let's imagine that 7, 8, 9 people start walking up and they say, yeah, I'll join the line. And then people see that people are lining up. So they're like, oh shit, he was right. They are going to sell out. So now you got 20, 30 people lining up. And then you open up the door and everyone's like buying the ice creams. And then that person comes and says, oh, can I get 1 free one? If I buy 5, can I get the 5th one for free? And you say, really sorry, look behind you. There's 30 people lining up. We're going to sell out anyway. So you don't do any discounts and you don't do any cheap deals and you don't do any of this kind of stuff. And guess what? You sell out in an hour and a half. So you make more money in less time simply because you conducted a little marketing campaign that creates demand and supply tension. So here's the thing. What most people get confused about with marketing is like, is it branding? Is it like, clever headlines? Is it all about the hook? Is it all about the call to action? All of that stuff is pedestrian. That's great. That's all tactical, right? Fantastic. But what you don't realize is that there's a fundamental principle at play. And that fundamental principle is that it all has to add up to demand and supply tension. If you don't create demand and supply tension, it doesn't work. Right? Because I can show you plenty of businesses that have an amazing brand and they have amazing, like take any airline has a beautiful brand and they have a beautiful call to action, come and, book a holiday to Barbados and blah, 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 blah. That's right. They've got all of this stuff working beautifully, but they don't make any money. They're 5% profit at best, right? They're constantly losing money. They're constantly doing profit warnings to their shareholders. Because there's no demand and supply tension. They fundamentally don't understand what they're meant to be doing. And then you take Rolex, who totally gets it. They totally understand how the game is played. And they basically say, we're just going to make a very limited number of watches. If you want a watch, you're going to have to be on a waiting list for 18 months. And at the end of 18 months, if you're lucky, we might call you. And they know that the purpose of their marketing is demand and supply tension, and they make a ton of profit, tons and tons and tons of profit. So this is the big difference. The big difference between, it's kind of like in fitness. I imagine that there's all these people like, oh, is it about curls and bicep this? And, it's like, you don't understand. What you're trying to do is put your muscles under a certain amount of tension so that they come to failure. They actually can't lift the weight. And if you don't do that, then all of it was wasted time, right? So I bet there's like a guiding principle, a big principle that just kind of, like if you forget that it's about this, then all of this other stuff doesn't matter. Would you agree?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So that basically sales and marketing, you've got to remember principle number 1, demand and supply tension sets the price. Demand and supply tension sets the profit. If you don't understand that that's actually the game that you're playing, then you fundamentally will fail.
I'd love to hear a story of when you guys just nailed it in terms of the tension, and you're looking at the things you might have done something in the campaign and you went,
I'll cover some basic ones from recent, right? And this is in the last couple of months. So my team comes to me and they say, we've got this idea for a new business idea, right? I say, okay, what is it? They say, well, you know how we help people to write books at the publishing company? And I say, yeah, right, because I've got this publishing company called Rethink Press. They're amazing. We have all these people who want to write a book, but they need help and they need support and it's too expensive and they can't afford a ghostwriter. What if we do AI tools for authors? What if we create this AI portal so that people can get the support of AI and write a book? I go, oh, I don't know if I want to do another software company. They tend to be quite difficult. I said, here's an idea. Why don't we do a test? I'll launch a waiting list campaign. And if we get 100, I'll do a post on LinkedIn. If we get 150 people on the waiting list, then I'll consider it. So we create a waiting list. And we basically say, we're creating some AI tools for authors so that you can author your book faster. It doesn't write the book for you. It just helps you to get it done. If you're interested in using AI tools to write a book, join the waiting list for early access to the software. So we've not written a line of code. We've not hired a developer. We've not hired anyone. We've not done anything. It's just literally an hour of graphic design time and one single landing page that says join the waiting list. Now, when they click the button, join the waiting list, we ask them 5 questions. What are you struggling with? What are you trying to get done? When you want to publish, how much would you pay for the software? So we ask all this. Oh, and then we ask one other question, which is, are you interested in seeing the angel investor presentation for this business? So we put all of that into the questions. So I do the post on LinkedIn, and 1,100 people join the waiting list. And I'm expecting 150. I think 150 would be a good result. And suddenly 1,100 join the waiting list. And I'm like, oh, this is actually really hot. Like, people want this. So when I analyzed the data, I'd originally thought that people would pay $19 a month, but the most common price point was $39 a month. In fact, most people were willing to pay over $39. 52% of people were willing to pay more than $39 a month. And I'm like, wow, okay. So people really want this and they're willing to pay for this. So then I had a look at the questions and I'm like, damn, there's 150 people who want to invest in this. So I'm like, okay, so now we have 1,100 people. They've told us exactly how much they're willing to pay. We haven't done anything yet. So I emailed the 150 people. I say, we're going to do an investor presentation. And the investor presentation will tell you about the data we've just collected and see whether you want to do an angel investment into this business. So we put on a Zoom call, and the investors, people interested in the investment, bear in mind they had to be screened as qualified high net worth investors. So the investors come through, and I invite a few other people, and I run the introduction. I show people, this is what we're planning on doing. Here's the waiting list campaign. Here's how many names. Here's our forecast as to how quickly we can get to 4,000 payers. This is what that would be worth. Here's the thing. If you're interested, we're going to raise £250,000, so about $500,000. If you're interested, just put in a strong signal of interest, fill in the angel investor application form. So we end up with 580,000 people, £580,000 worth of angel investors that day. So that day, we still haven't written a line of code. We still don't have any employees. We still haven't got any customers. And now we've got £580,000 worth of signaled interest. So I go back to them and I say, we've had £580,000 of signaled interest. I can't take on £580,000 yet. We're going to take $250,000. So if you're willing to invest 40% of what you said you would, then I'll bring you in on the condition that you commit to doing something beyond making money or beyond investing money. You've got to commit to promoting or making an introduction or any of that. So we get all of this money just come in and hit the account. We raise money at a £3 million valuation on day one. We hire an amazing dev team. We've got $250,000 in the bank. So from idea to £3 million valuation, we're talking 4 weeks, right? With actual sophisticated investors invested. And we've validated the idea, and now we're going to launch early in the year with this AI tool we've got an amazing CTO, we've got an amazing dev team. So it's all coming together now. But interestingly, most people don't do things in that way. They don't create demand and supply tension around the launch of a product. They don't create demand and supply tension around the investment in a product.
And just see how powerful that framing is.
That's a recent example.
Yeah, and I just see just how powerful that framing is, because if it's turned around the other way, and it's more, oh, we need, then obviously it's going to be like a no.
Totally. So, what most people do is they spend 6, 9, 12 months building a product, then they try and launch it. No one wants it, and then because no one wants it, they try and raise investment, and then no one wants to invest.
It's always the wrong way around.
All wrong way around.
Crazy.
And what did you think of that example? Is that what you had in mind?
Yeah, exactly. I loved it. I loved it so much. It was like like so perfect, and I can tell that like you're really passionate about it. I just love the whole story, especially like it's like relevancy to now, because even I'm thinking at the moment, I'm like, oh man, that's why that thing didn't work and that one didn't work and that one didn't work. We're doing campaigns,
Yeah.
right? Creating tension is like I would say, like from how you're describing it, it's a bit of like an art form. And once you've done it once or twice, it's like, oh, okay, now we're sort of can see through the filters.
And you see it, you see it everywhere. When I go to the airport, there's a Louis Vuitton shop and you can't go in. There's a security guard to keep you out. And you walk up to the security guard and you sheepishly say, "Oh, do you mind if I come in and look at the products?" And they go, have you got an appointment?" No, I'm just traveling through the airport. Just wait here for a minute. Yes, yeah, I got another one. Another person wants to look at handbags and bags and belts. All right, fair enough. I'll let you in. You can come in for a little while, just briefly. Right, be quick. All right. So it's funny. I'm hamming it up for effect, but it's funny, right? That what they're doing is they're creating a moment of tension, even on a retail experience, where there's this micro moment of tension that it just confirms you want this more than we want to. You want to buy this more than we want to sell this, right? It's just that little bit of like, and it helps because if the store's empty, well, or maybe the store's empty because the security guard wouldn't let anyone in, right? So the security guard plays this important feature, and it's a bloody airport. It's the safest place on earth. What do they need a security guard for? There's CCTV everywhere, right? Everyone's been through security. What do they need a security guard for? They need a security guard to make you feel that moment of tension.
Yeah. I love it. I love how they do that. It's cool because I went to Japan recently and it was like every single store there's a security guard in there.
They've all read the book.
You get to the next they've all read it. Yeah, they've all read it. They understand.
The book has been printed in Japanese.
Yeah.
It has actually been. It could be there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it will. Like I loved all the process and everything in the book. I like the 4 marketing roles, they're just the 4 roles in general of the business. It was really really powerful because I was looking at my team when I read it and I was like, oh, we've got the roles. Like this is great. Let's go. But I can tell that gets you, like, some of these things get you really excited. What currently in like entrepreneurship and with what you're doing and what you're learning is, making you feel really passionate and excited?
It's all about AI. Everything AI. Artificial intelligence. Yeah. It's I go to bed thinking about it, wake up thinking about it. I think about it all day long. It's it's the biggest thing we've ever invented. It's the biggest trend that's ever come along. It's no different to when electricity was created. It's no different to when the steam engine was created. There's only, like, if you take AI, there's only things like the printing press, sailing ships, the internet, personal computers. There's only a few things that could even come close to this. This is what's called a general purpose technology. And a general purpose technology transforms everything horizontally and vertically. So every industry and every level of business gets impacted by a general purpose technology. And it means that everything's up for grabs. Every single business that you look around and take for granted, AI will disrupt it, and it will look different in 5 to 10 years' time. It will look completely different. In the same way that pre-electrification, homes, before there was any electricity, a home was like this disconnected standalone thing, and all what was possible in a house and what you could do in a house was completely different compared to after electrification. So artificial intelligence basically will transform every industry at every level. Everything's up for grabs.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is like artificial intelligence, but you're like your score app that brings like the reports when like you fill in and like get this like beautiful written report just sent straight to your email. Holy moly.
Boom.
Like that was quick.
That is AI. Score app is full of AI.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know if it's like scraping everything or whatever it is, but I'm just like, this wild, like how quickly this comes up. Just like personally on the daily, how do you use it? Like, because I'm still trying to like figure out like, okay, For someone who's like an educational, like based, service based business, the best way I use it is just to help, like currently it's just to help me think. I use AI like a search engine, and I feel like I get results way quicker than anything else. Like when I'm using for that, just help me think. But that's about it.
We joked around and we said, back in my day when I was a whippersnapper, we didn't have podcasts or videos. You're going to say to your kids, back in my day, we didn't have artificial intelligence that could just give us the answers. We had to listen to podcasts. We had to watch YouTube videos. We didn't have access to the sum total of all human information in one device that we could interact with and chat with. So my kids will grow up and they'll just totally understand that, like, you just talk to AI and it talks to you about all your options. It's the smartest thing you've ever interacted with. It's the best doctor, lawyer, accountant, advisor, friend. Like, it's just all of this all packed into one. And when they want a business mentor, they'll go to AI and just say act as a business mentor. And when they want a doctor, they'll say act as a doctor, and it'll be pretty damn good at all of those things. So look, I use it to think. I do a lot of things like deal making and deals. So I use it for heads of terms, letters of intent, contracts. I get copied into, because I have 9 companies in the group. I get copied into emails after shit's gone wrong. So I might get copied into an email that's 15 interactions long, and it's like the whole chain. So I'll just cut that straight into ChatGPT, summarize this email into a thing, create a response. I'll then basically have a much better view of how this whole thing has played out, even than the people who are in it. And it takes me, what would have taken me an hour takes me 3 or 4 minutes. And then the main way that I use it is to embed it into our business. So, for example, we used to have a customer learning portal for our for Dent accelerators, and in there was like all these amazing videos and resources and all that sort of stuff. And we've just pretty much replaced it with an artificial intelligence portal where our customers tell us about themselves, and they tell us about their target market and what they're essentially doing. And then the AI uses all of our content and frameworks to then basically build their business for them, delivers about 80 different parts of everything is just in there. And they didn't have to learn anything. It just did it all for them in minutes. And it basically, where someone used to get to in 6 months, we can get them there in 6 days now. So that's one way. In Score App, it used to take us about 6 weeks to build a scorecard and code it and develop it and get it all done. The AI builds it, codes it, builds the landing page, builds the dynamic content, populates it everywhere that it needs to be. It takes like 5 to 10 minutes to do what used to take like weeks. So we just plug it into everything now. So every business that I'm involved in, we just ask the question constantly, how can we plug AI into this so that our customer gets the result that they want in minutes, not hours or days or weeks? So we're constantly looking for things that take customers a long time and a lot of stress. And we're just like, how do we use AI to reduce the amount of time and remove all the stress?
That is so cool. Immediately my brain's like, oh my God, this. How do you do it? How do you like go through in terms of like actually like creating an AI, like plugging into, like, let's say, for example,
do you know what's crazy? It's crazy easy.
Of course it is.
It's crazy easy. So like some of the new technology, you can upload a book. You could take the manuscript for oversubscribe. You literally put it into ChatGPT and say, create a GPT bot based upon this book that helps people to implement this information. And it will just go, okay, here's an oversubscribe bot. And it'll just build it for you. Now, when you do the next level up, which what we do, we're doing something called prompt engineering. And prompt engineering is essentially, we're trying to marry 3 things. We're trying to marry what you know about yourself, what we know about you or your problem, and then integrating that with AI so that it brings about something bigger. So, for example, you work in the fitness space, don't you?
No, personal development.
Personal development.
Yeah.
So let's say you've got a framework and it's called the Secret 7, right? Whatever it's called. There's a Secret 7 framework. And you basically take information that's relevant about the customer, Then you feed that to the Secret 7 framework, right? Then you feed that over to ChatGPT and say, take this customer information and use this framework to write a plan for that customer based upon them meeting this framework. Right? Now, you can go a step further. You could say, take this customer information, use this framework, and be compliant with this set of laws, and create output that is relevant. So you can start layering different parts of content that normally require seriously smart people to kind of keep all of that to mind. You just send it all over to ChatGPT and say, take all of that into your, capture all of that. Because remember, you can feed it with about 30,000 words per prompt. So you could just take all of this stuff, feed over detailed information about them and the frameworks and what you want to do and their life plan. And you could feed all of that over and then say, now synthesize that and spit it back out according to the framework.
Whoa. And you just basically have a website that embeds into that. You set up all the things and sends comes back.
You build it as a very smooth portal for customers to interact with.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. I love that. It's so cool. Okay. Difficult question, right? First one. How could people who are working more with their hands, more face to face, like in with people, benefit then from using AI system like that?
As customers or as business owners?
Let's say business owners. Like most people that listen to me are like, there.
Okay, so for the first things first is the first thing you have to keep in mind with AI is you must not fall into the trap of becoming an AI consumer. You have to be an AI creator. So AI has the first thing is that AI has two superpowers. Superpower number one is that it tricks you into consuming more than you wanted to consume. So if we would basically say, why do people spend time on TikTok? It's because it's a very powerful AI. You got to imagine that when AI plays chess against humans, it always wins. It never loses. It's 100 for 100. It's 1,000 for 1,000. It is 100% effective at crushing you as a human chess player. There's no beating it. When it plays chess, when it isn't playing chess, but its job is to keep you addicted to content, it will never lose. It will get better and better and better. In the coming 2 or 3 years, you're going to see people completely lose their entire life that they've built because they fall down content rabbit holes. So you're going to see people just basically with TikTok brain. You're going to see these kids who can't think. You're going to see relationships that break up because someone ended up down a very toxic rabbit hole of content that AI figured out they liked. So AI is just going to get you to listen to more music on Spotify, buy more stuff on Amazon, watch more stuff on social media, right? It's more. It's going to shove stuff down your face, getting you, yeah, exactly. So the first trick is to know that it has a superpower and it's a grandmaster. It's a grandmaster at getting you to do that. So you got to delete all the shit off your phone. You cannot interact with it. Do not interact with AI. Once you know that the AI's job is to get you addicted to something, you stay the hell away from it. Delete the stuff off your iPad and your phone because it's going to get you. So that's part one. Part two is now that you know that it has two superpowers, you have to figure out how to become more creative, that you can up your input, up your output, up your creative output. So every business has little things like interacting with customers, doing marketing, perhaps selling into a different language. There is things that are informational things. Let's say you're a fitness trainer, creating fitness programs is something. Having motivational, output on social media to win clients, all of that stuff. So you can use AI for all of your creative output, but you've got to really distinguish. The number one distinction in the year ahead is distinguish. Is this AI using me to consume or am I using it to create?
Yeah. So powerful because that's like so needed. It was crazy. I did, it was like 4 or 5 years ago. I just did just a study myself on social media. And I got like 250 people just like, hey, can you guys like fill this figure this out. And it was really interesting. The feedback that we got was like, why were people on social media? And the number one reason was to give and share love, like was on there. And only like 0.2% of people have had a negative experience on social media itself. And it makes so much sense to me now of being like, maybe the Terminator apocalypse is like sort of real, but it's whoa, there's balloons going on. But all just in regards to just keeping you addicted to your phone, because you do feel love, you do feel these other things. And even just recently, I remember going on TikTok for a minute because we're posting some stuff in there. I got sucked in for like 10 minutes. And I was like, that, I had to put my phone down. I was like, that's an experience. I'm like, that.
Hey, you were lucky.
It's too good.
10 minutes is mate, you're a Jedi master if it only got you for 10 minutes.
It's personal development. I'm aware of my emotions.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm addicted. Let's get this going real quick.
Boom. Yeah, exactly. Takes some real mental strength for sure. You can see why kids get addicted for hours.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. And I completely understand from the whole try to become a creator, because what I noticed when I was doing that study was we don't have any laws or rules around like mindsets. Like, you know, when you drive a car in traffic, right? It's like when you want to stop, like slow down when it's orange, get to red, stop at the lights, because otherwise if you go through, you're going to get smashed. Dangerous. We know that right hand lane's overtaking lane, and when you merge, you want to click your thing a few times before you go so no one sees you going through. You want to wear your seatbelt. There's no rules for that yet with social media and AI, but I think you've got the main distinction, which is just asking, am I using the AI? Is it
creating
using
or
me?
consuming? The biggest one is kids, by the way. Like, we have rules for when you can smoke and when you can drink. We know that stuff's bad for you, but we say, well, at least wait until you're over 18. It's absolutely criminal. We're going to look back. Honestly, we're going to look back. When you see videos, photos of like kids smoking, like 13-year-olds, you know, back in the day, and it's like, what were they thinking? We are going to look back and say, what on earth were we thinking letting kids have social media? When the data and the research comes out about what TikTok does, like, imagine if the Chinese government wanted to come to every single school and hand out flyers and like just and spend hours with like conducting the programming that kids would watch after school. Most kids now come home and they go to their room and they flick through their screens and they spend hours flicking through an app that is fundamentally created and managed and maintained by the Chinese government. You know, so yeah, like it's insane.
Crazy.
And if you're a parent listening, like literally get that off the kid's phone. Like, whatever they kick and scream, okay, they're probably going to kick and scream about not being able to have cocaine and heroin as well, but you don't let them have that.
Yeah, which is, you know, such a fair point to make, because it's real. Yeah, blows my mind. So for everyone listening, I like to give them a challenge. I'd like you to challenge based off what we've discussed in the podcast, something that they could take action on. Like today, they're listening to this, they're like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this thing. What challenge?
Should it be easy or a hard challenge?
Oh,
you want me to give them something?
Let's go a difficult one. My audience are pretty cool. Like everyone here like takes a lot of action, and they're really striving to work and grow and do all the things. So yeah, let's give them a difficult challenge, one that they can do. Rock the socks a bit.
Here's one. Take the amount of money that you would absolutely love to earn in a week. Right? Like your dream amount of money you'd love to earn in a week. And that becomes that would be your new weekly wage that you would say, this is a proper step up in my life. Withdraw it in cash, however you get your hands on it, withdraw it in cash and start carrying that in your pocket.
Nice.
And do that for the next 2 months.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do that one as well. All right. Keen.
Serious?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I'll do it for sure.
I'll tell you why it works.
Scary as hell, but oh my God. Like I was just like, oh, that's actually a really good challenge. I love that one.
You got to carry it on you. Here's why it works. You've got to emotionally process that this amount of money is not a big deal, that it's actually just pocket money. There needs to be no real emotional charge around that sort of money, because The types of people who earn that sort of money, they don't think of it as a lot of money. They just, yeah, it's just pocket money. It's what I earned in a week. It's no big deal. You're not going to earn an amount of money that you feel emotionally is up there. You don't earn money that's up there. The funny thing is when you become, let's say, a millionaire, because everyone talks about this idea of millionaire, it just doesn't seem like that big a deal, right? I'll tell you something about people who have Ferraris. People who have Ferraris, it's really not the biggest thing in their life. It's just not. It's just a thing. People who live in their dream home, I live in my dream home. It's really just not a big deal. It's like it's not a major focus. It's like there's got to be a lot more going on in your life than the dream home if you want to live in the dream home. So you've got to you've got to take it as something that's big and external and make it small and internal. So you just take that amount of money and you start carrying it in your pocket. Suddenly that amount of money becomes pocket change. So the second thing that happens is that it raises all your money issues. All your money issues bubble straight to the surface. So let's say you pick 10 grand. So you're going to carry around 10 grand in your pocket and you think to yourself, oh my God, people are going to judge me. If someone sees that, they're going to judge me. Which they might not judge you. You might just carry it in an envelope and you just got it in an envelope and it's just in your pocket and no one knows what's in the envelope. It's just your envelope full of 10 grand. And you go, oh, people, what would people think of me? Well, that is one of your money issues. Someone might say, oh, see, people will steal it. You say, so your money issue is that if I had money, people would steal it. My friends would think I'm a tosser. Oh, okay. So if you get money, you'll lose your friends. So basically all your money issues of the real genuine reasons that you do not want to earn a lot more money, they all bubble up to the surface straight away. They're like, they're on your radar. And it takes about 2 to 3 months to just normalize that amount of money, as just a normal thing. And there's a mental shift that happens at about 2 to 3 months in where you're just like, I don't need to do this anymore. Like I get it. Like I've just changed my views of money. You can do it. And it's like, yeah, I can keep doing it, whatever. But I'm doing like, I feel very differently about it.
Yeah. I love that because I find that, a lot of the people that I coach and work with, even general, like my audience and people that listen or watch my content or that I talk to regularly, are just resistant to even owning that they do have money problems. So people say, I don't have any money problems. Like, bullshit. There's something there. That's always there. So I absolutely love that. Would you mind if I use that as like a little challenge in my communities, guys?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I love that.
See if they can all do it.
There's one challenge that we have that we do. That's just get someone to buy you something that's over $10 over a counter. They're not allowed to give you the cash. You have to get someone to buy you something like physically, like over a counter. And that's a fantastic one because you got to come there and be like, it's like testing your ability to receive because they're like, oh no, I don't want to ask. They get rejected. They feel like, no, I don't want to buy that. And they're like, oh no. And then eventually someone goes, yeah, of course. And they're like, what? Which is cool. That. Yeah. I love that one because that's so uncomfortable because I have to go through because it's like your ideal amount of money. And I was like, oh, okay. So what do I put in there? And I'm like, okay, that's not my ideal amount of money. So I have to go take out, like have a think about like what's the ideal amount of money. I'm going to take it out on one of the accounts and just like stuff it in my pocket. And yeah, that gets me going. That's a great challenge.
Nice one. And you'll have to do it with a few people and see how they all get along with
it. Yeah, I'll go ask like my closest friend. Maybe the guys that I work with.
First time I did this, I actually lost it. I lost the money.
Like just lost it somewhere.
This was 20 something years ago, and I was carrying $2,000. So I wanted to make 100 grand a year, so I was carrying 2 grand, and I got really comfortable with it. I got used to it. Like weeks went by, months went by, and I'm like, yeah, it's just a couple of grand I've got carrying around. I always I'd get home and I'd take out my keys and my wallet and like my phone, and I'd just stick it all on the bench. And like one of the items that I just unpack and just sit there was a couple of grand. So I did actually get used to the idea that, oh yeah, it's a couple of grand. But I got so casual with it that it just disappeared one day. I'm like, where's it gone? Like, where's it gone? I've like literally lost a couple of grand. And it made me realize that my issue is now not receiving money. Because I went in that year, I went from 1,500 a month to 12 grand a month as my income. And I realized that I'd changed so much that my issue wasn't about the receiving the money, was taking care of the money, and that it was I'd become too. Oh, we're back.
Yep, we're back. It got to issue was
back?
Yeah, we got you back. The issue was taking care of the issue at the moment is like, yeah, it's not like making the money now, it's taking care of the money.
Taking care of it. So here's the end of the story, right? I'd made so much extra money that I was upgrading my car, and I bought myself this brand new car, and I'd put my old car on for sale, and they were coming around to pick it up in an hour. And I thought to myself, do I just hand them the keys, or do I do the right thing and wash the car, right? Because they're buying a new car for them. For them, this is their new car, right? So it's some kid who's going to buy my old car. I don't give a shit, but it's their first car. And I thought to myself, like, they've already agreed to buy it. Do I wash it and vacuum it properly and hand it over nicely, or do I just hand it over and it's theirs? I thought, okay. My standard is that if I've sold something, I do it properly. So I went downstairs and I washed the car, and I got the vacuum cleaner and I vacuumed it all out. And at the last minute, I pulled out the ashtray all the way out, and down fell the $2,000. And what I'd done is I'd stuck the $2,000 in the ashtray, and the little clip had pushed it up into the center console. And it was like, boom, and out it came, and it fell down. I'm like, holy, there's the $2,000. And that was another little message from the universe that basically said, when you do the right thing, the universe, looks out for you. Do the right thing when you're making sales, when you're winning, look after people when you're winning. Even the little guys.
I love that. That is so motivating. It's like it is those little things, those little 1%ers like at the end that end up contributing and making so much. So
yeah.
Well, Daniel, really, for all of those people listening, you've got like crazy amounts of offers for people that can find you. Where can they find you? Do they sign up to a newsletter? Like, where's the best place to just get in your world of be brave, have fun, make a dent? How can they?
Yeah. So there's all my books are on Amazon, where I've unpacked all of my kind of thinking over the years. And then dent.global has got a free 21-day course, and it's got an online scorecard called the Key Person of Influence Scorecard. So a couple of things that you can do. You can take the free 21-day course, which is just a few videos. It's not massive, but it's just enough to kind of guide you through the steps that I've used to launch my businesses. So chaos is in there, and the 5 Ps is in there, and like all of those steps are in there. So that's a free 21-day thing. And then there's also this online scorecard called the Key Person of Influence Scorecard, which helps you to develop your personal brand. And then the final thing is on scoreapp.com. You can set up a free account and start your own waiting list campaign, or start your own online assessment campaign. Use our artificial intelligence to build a marketing campaign for you. And you can have a free account. And only when you confirm that you want to launch it live and start ramping it up, then you end up paying $29 a month. So it's pretty affordable, and it's a great little piece of software for launching and developing your campaigns, your marketing campaigns.
Absolutely. And all of that will be linked down in the show notes below. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Cheers, Corey. That was great.